column title, already deployed in the magazine by a previous writer, Natural Acts. The mosquito piece, he suggested, could run as the first of my columns, and I could follow in the same vein with whatever nature-related expository and opinionated jive I cared to offer. At that moment, just beginning my efforts at freelancing, I could scarcely go to the grocery store and buy a hamburger without first balancing my checkbook to see exactly where I stood. "Yes," I said. "Yes, absolutely. I'll be glad to do it. For a year or two." 15 years passed, and, son of a gun, I found I had written about 160 columns. During that time I had been given extraordinary freedom and trust by John Rasmus and his successors, indulged to follow my curiosity virtually wherever it led, so long as each monthly essay had some connection to nature or science, and to educate myself somewhat in the fields of ecology, field biology, and evolutionary theory. I was still an outsider to the biological sciences, a non-expert with a non-education, but those areas had become familiar to me as a journalistic beat. You don't have to be a cop or a burglar to cover the crime stories down at the courthouse, and you don't have to be a biologist to write about biology. My lack of formal scientific training may even have been an advantage in some ways, leaving me with a fresh eye and an ingenuous ignorance similar to those of the general readers as whose proxy I tried to serve. My style of research for the early columns, partly conditioned by the fact that I'd never darkened the door of a school of journalism, was roundabout, unsystematic, ruminative as a feral goat, highly dependent on arcane printed materials and personal experience, and, some might say, unprofessional. That is, I didn't choose a subject, then choose an angle, then call experts on the phone and ask for quotes. Instead, I wandered amid obscure sources, old books, back issues of scientific journals, newspaper clippings, classic texts, fragments of remembered literature, and, whenever possible, wild places, the Amazon headwaters, the Sonoran Desert, the rivers of western Montana, until my attention seized on a fact or a creature that seemed to me both interesting and important. I researched outward from that point, trying to find a broader cultural context, and also downward, more deeply into it. Then, usually under severe deadline pressure, I wrote a short essay in a tone of voice meant to seem as immediate and informal as a telephone harangue to my best friend. By embracing the results, the readers of Outside during those years subsidized and encouraged my overdue scientific education. I take this chance to thank them again. The book Natural Acts, as originally published in 1985, collected about 24 of those early columns, along with a few longer pieces I had written for Esquire, Audubon, and other magazines. The good people at Nick Lyons Books, and that company's successor Lyons and Burford, kept it available in hardback over the years, while a couple of paperback editions came and went. Meanwhile, as I continued writing columns, the character of those short essays gradually changed, becoming, for better or worse, more careful of fact and complexity, more deeply informed by the main themes and principles of ecology and evolutionary biology, possibly more shapely, definitely less naive and blunt. Some of them are gathered in my later collections, such as The Boilerplate Rhino. In 1995, I resigned from the columnist's role when I reached such a point of exhaustion not with science or with nonfiction, just with that jaunty little form, the column-length essay, that I felt I might start repeating or imitating myself. I hadn't seen the end coming. I just realized one day, suddenly, as I rewrote a troublesome column, that this was it. Since then, I've divided my working time between nonfiction books and magazine pieces of a sort that wasn't possible within the constraints of a monthly column.